Welcome to the Always Free podcast. This is the number one podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. And we're in a brand new studio. So welcome. And if you haven't listened to this podcast before, go back and listen to episode 1. We're now on season 2. And this is episode 1 of season 2 in the brand new studio. So we thought we'd kick off with Aaron Knightley, good friend of mine who's come in. How you doing, mate?
Mate, I'm loving it. I'm just taking it all in. As Jason just said, like, we're in the new studio now, mate. It's just
pretty cool.
We're going to get into a cool podcast, but the studio is awesome.
Yeah. I think, one of the reasons I wanted to get Aaron in is because, one, we want a lot more conversational stuff on this podcast because built this lovely desk and this lovely arrangement where we can sit and have great conversations. But it's also a great opportunity to talk about something that I think's important at the moment, and that is this idea of like trying to build your own life, trying to break out of what everyone else is telling you to do in the media and in politics, and really just kind of getting clarity over what it is you want and how to do that, how to actually go out and live a life, and the reality of building your own future rather than going along with the status quo or what other people want you to do. So I think it's going to be it'll be a good conversation. And I guess the best way into it is just talking about what you talk a lot about on your social media, right? Because your audience is a very specific demographic. What's the pains and problems that are going through their mind? Who are they?
Well, it's interesting, right? I think I just done a YouTube video on the way up here, and I listened to a YouTube video yesterday to get some inspo for a new video. I wanted to sort of almost counter what was out there. And most people want to have more money. We said this yesterday. Most people want to live life on their terms. But I think what it comes down to is the inability to do what's necessary. And I watched this video yesterday, and I suppose kicking it off with this, where this lady was talking about she's sick of everyone talking about quitting the 9-to-5 and trying to build a business and make more money. And I could hear in her voice that she's got insecurities, and she tried, but I can see it in her eyes. I'm not even joking. I watched this video and I was a little bit frustrated. So I've done a YouTube video on the way up, driving to yours now, about I can see that she's got pain, that she tried and it just didn't work out. And now she's like, well, 9-to-5, I suppose it's not great. It's not what I want to do, but I've just put up with it because not everyone can run a business and have a better life. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you haven't stuck with the plan. Like we were saying yesterday on the live stream, action, and do everything in the beginning that average people are not willing to do. And you can have a better life.
Yeah.
It's the truth. We're not sitting in a job right now.
No, I think getting to the point where you believe that to be true, though, is the struggle. So like, I think you have to actually take some actions. I think people don't actually start. That's the problem. I mean, my son, he's like producing this show, and and I remember when he was younger, he wanted to do a backflip, and he was like trying to do a backflip, and and it'd be like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this, and then sooner or later he's doing backflips on concrete, and he can do it, and then the next thing he wants to learn, he's like, oh, I'm not really going to be able to do this, and then I say, look what happened last time. You just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and you will do it. It's just a matter of how many actions you take to get to that result. And eventually he did the next thing, and now he knows that he can do anything. Like he don't you, Eve? You believe like whatever, and actually it's a pain now for him because he's like, if I decide to do something, that's the pain because now I know I've got to do. I know what I've got to do, right? And he commits to it, and he's doing that right now with something else, but he just knows now. He's got that belief transference that if you just do certain actions, the result's inevitable. Yeah. So the key is just like starting, and I think that's the roadblock. Why don't people start? Like, why don't they start in the first place?
Well, I think you can start with the fundamental of look at who's around you. Your son's able to do anything because he's got a dad that believes in him. He doesn't need an entire army telling him he can do it. He's got the blueprint in front of him, and you back him. And I don't think people have the right circle around them. And I think that also stems from people are fearful to go, well, I know deep down I've got to cut people off, because I know, just being a competent individual, I know that negativity is not good for my mindset. And there's so much negativity out there in the world. I know I should cut people off, but it means I'm going to be lonely for a little bit, and I might have to find a new clique. And it's that gap of loneliness, because humans want to attach themselves. That's why in the workplace people become so suppressed, because they're like, well, I need to attach myself to something, but most of the time it's not the right thing. And if you look at most people who want to change their lives, look at their social circle, they're not in the right environments.
Well,
that's where it starts.
Yeah, that is where it starts.
That is where it starts, all of it.
It is where it starts. I've done, we were speaking about this yesterday, about the circle and how that influences your, not just your money and how much you earn, but really everything. Like how you see challenges, how you perceive the world, how you deal with certain challenges that come up, how the level of strategy that you've got in your mind when you approach certain roadblocks or taxes, or and the way that I always put it is, like, if you're hanging around with people who are earning 30 grand a year, you're going to have conversations to the tune of 30 grand a year problems, 30 grand a year celebrations, 30 grand a year habits. Like you're just going to have those conversations, because no one in that group has ever excelled or surpassed that level of comfort or that level of challenge. So you're always going to have those conversations. And unfortunately, what happens is, when you do try to break out and excel and, better yourself or develop yourself in that circle, they will naturally try to pull you back down to where they're at. Yeah. And it's not because they're horrible. It's not because they're toxic people. It's just because human nature is, we want to be the survival of the fittest. We don't want you to do better, because it means you're getting a better chance than us, right?
Yeah.
It's only when you break out of that and you start having that belief of, if I do this, I get this result, I'm successful. That's when you embrace it. You don't see anyone as a threat. You celebrate success. You're like, yes, let's all win. And unfortunately, you do have to find a new group. You do have to find yourself a different environment that's going to allow you to do that.
Mate, this is why I talk about it all the time, is that you have to apply that self-mastery of, when you're excited at the thought of running a business or eventually escaping one day to go on to something bigger and better, you have to be mindful of who you tell, because that's the thing. When you go on to do really great things, people will, poke their head out the parapet, and they will say things. They will judge you. They don't want you to do well, which is why you have to be so tactful in designing your life and very careful who you tell. I mean, there's a lot of videos out on YouTube now, which is called, stuff like, don't tell people your goals and dreams. It's because when it becomes a public thing and people know about it, you're almost sending this energy of it not happening, because you've put it out to so many people. And unfortunately, most of the people won't want you to do well. Yeah. They say they do, but they don't. And that's why, when you go through this journey, you really start to understand, Jesus, I haven't got many people around me. Like, it's a small circle. Yeah. And then you have to be really picky on that circle. And that's where I feel most people fall short, is that they're holding on to dead wood, but they want a better life. But you have to cut it off. Yeah,
I think going into that as well, when they do start, one of the wrong approaches they take, let's just say that they manage to go and start bettering themselves, developing, reading. The next problem is, they want the perfect start. So they want everything, all the ducks in a row. They want to be, and one of the biggest downfalls of doing that is they learn everything. Like that, they're going off and learning and trying to learn everything, right? And the more information they absorb, they think that that's going to give them the best, like, spring boost into where they want to go. And this is the same in trading, investing, whatever. The more you learn can actually have the effect that you just said about, like, telling everyone about it. What it does is it becomes overwhelming, because you've now know so much that you're starting to beat yourself up, because you know all this stuff, but you still don't know how to put it into action. And actually, you know less how to put it into action now because you know so much. And I always say, it's like trying to, if my goal was to have a conversation with someone in English and I wasn't English, it's like trying to achieve that goal, and the way you go about it is by learning every word in the Oxford Dictionary. Like that, you could learn every word in the Oxford Dictionary, you still couldn't have a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
But now I know so many words that it's like, I don't know where to, like, I don't even know where to start. Like, and I must be terrible at this. I must be terrible at English because I know every word and I still can't have a conversation. It's unrealistic. Like, you can't approach it that way. You just need to know some steps. You need to know enough about the path. Like, if you go and follow any guru out there, any expert in their field, Ramsey on money, he'll say, save, invest in this, do this. Those 3 steps, although they're broad, there's really no other secrets to it. Like, you just go and do that and you'll get the result.
But it sounds boring.
It is boring. It is boring. But you'll be financially free if you do that, right? But going on a treadmill is boring. Going on a stair climb is boring. It's just how badly you want.
It's the basics. I use the terminology of don't be a librarian. I always talk about, we all have that one family member at Christmas that will sit around the Christmas table telling you everything they've ever done, everything that they've learned and all this kind of stuff. But you ask them, have you done it? Oh no, I've never done it, but I know about it. And it's that consumption of information, but no application. Yeah. It is literally taking the 1, 2, 3 steps and going and doing it, perfecting it, and then going, now I can add another string to my bow. Same as working out, same as social media, same as money. It is the fundamentals, but it's boring for most people. And that ties again into discipline. It really, everything to me is discipline. Yeah. Discipline with money. If you're overweight, stop putting pizza in your mouth. It's simple. Like, I think we overcomplicate things. You'll hear someone down the pub talking about opening up a trading 212, buying EasyJet, but they don't have 12 months of savings if they were to lose their job, but they've got now EasyJet, which they can't do anything with because it makes them feel good. Again, going into short-term wins, social media has told us we need dopamine. We need it now. And if we didn't have it yesterday, it's not worth doing. And people, as you just said, listen to too many people. There's too many voices.
Too many voices.
There's a great thing about social media that we can all have a voice, but a lot of people, I would say, are very, in a nice way, quite weak-minded. So they're susceptible to information. Yeah. And they just believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this goes back to the point that I made earlier of breaking out of that kind of collective mind that the world is, because we've actually got a much more female receptive brain. So we're open to receiving information more than we are projecting information, which is why there's only the leaders are the few and the followers are the many, the masses. And that's just, again, human evolution. Our brain is literally wired to have more feminine receptive for information, and we want orders. We want someone to look up to. We want someone to hold their hand. So to actually go out and say, no, I'm doing this. This is my idea. This is my idealism. This is what I'm projecting. This is what I'm going to create for myself. It is a minority. But it doesn't have to be. It's just we've been for years, brainwashed into this idea that if we don't do something, and it's all led by fear. If we don't do this, we're going to go to hell. If we don't do this, we're going to, go to prison. If we don't do this, we're going to, all these kind of things. And some of them, obviously there's right and wrong, but it's molded this society where everyone is looking up to a highlight reel and going, that looks way out of my reach, and if I want to get there, there's so many hoops I've got to go through, and I need to avoid that risk, and I need to avoid that risk, and I don't want to get caught up in that, and I've heard there's a problem with that, and
it's amazing, isn't it? You tell someone you could change your entire life between 3 to 5 years. Your entire life could change. We said this yesterday on the live stream, but you could have a totally different life that is so much more fulfilling, and and just an abundance of whatever it is you want. And 5 years now to people is like, 5 years. What?
Yeah.
Oh, I really don't like where I'm at. I'm sick of it. I complain about my job. I don't like my wife. I go to work because I can't stand my wife, although I won't leave her. And you're saying I could change my life, but in 5 years.
Yeah. What's the alternative?
And you think, what's the alternative?
What's the alternative?
But again, what does that stem from? No discipline. No discipline. We just want everything so freaking easy.
Yeah.
We want everything so easy.
I think it's discipline coupled with the fact that everything is made to look like it's easy.
Yeah.
Right? So, I tell people that it's going to take them 18 months to 3 years to come good on trading.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? 3 years? Well, this guru's telling me I can do it next week and
Some
double my
18-year-old little squirts.
Exactly.
Just,
right? Yeah. So it's no wonder, because that message of it takes a week is drowning my message, because everyone wants the quick win. Like my YouTube channel has taken so long to grow. If I'd have gone out there and sold the Lambos and the flipping helicopters and the Rolexes, I would be triple the size I am, and you wouldn't, my message would be out there. But I didn't do that, and people want this quick win. So look, that's I don't want to make this all about us kind of rubbishing people's approach, because that's not what it's about. But this is the truth of the matter, that people aren't living the lives that they want because of fears, unrealistic expectations, their environment, right? So,
and just finally on that, not keeping up with the Joneses as well. That's the other thing, is not keeping up with what you see and thinking that's the standard. That also holds people back.
Yeah.
When you can start understanding what your want is and your whys, then you live life on your terms, and then things happen quicker.
Yeah. So now let's talk about how people actually can do it, and what are the opportunities, what is available, what are the realities of this new world and the opportunities that we've got now, because you're living it, right?
Yeah, look, opportunities everywhere. I think, we've covered off the reality, because I find that important, not to fluff the reality. It's tough, it's full of pressures, there's stresses involved, but opportunity, I mean, my God, anything you want, literally anything you want. You want to monetize anything you can, any passion, any lifestyle that you live, as long as you learn how to commercialize and position yourself and be a voice and be willing to step outside your comfort zone, anything's possible. But my top tips are, you've got to put yourself in those positions. You've got to ask more questions, and you've really got to be knocking on the door of the people that are going to allow you to have these opportunities. I didn't wait for Applied to come to me to be an ambassador.
Applied Nutrition.
Applied Nutrition. I've been knocking on their door for ages.
Yeah.
I go out and get the opportunities that I want, and if I can't get through to them, I will position myself to get that opportunity where they see me.
Yeah.
The money's there on the table, but you've got to do the things that most people don't want to do.
Yeah. It's like having the attitude of, instead of worrying about I'm not good enough right now, I want to dedicate my actions to always to being ready at the right time. So when that opportunity comes, I'm ready. I'm the one, and it's up to you to put yourself in that position. Don't wait for it to be some lucky who you know, not what you know, or you got like this lucky call, or it was a mistake and you got selected. Just be ready for it. If you want to be part of a band, practice the flipping guitar or whatever, right? Until you're good enough where people go, I want that guy. Don't have to beg to go, can I be in your band? And it's the same with partnerships. It's the same with sponsorships. It's the same with business opportunities. If you're a trader and you're looking to get funded, it's not duping people into thinking you can trade their money. It's going, I'm going to shut the outside world out. I'm just going to prove to myself I'm really good. And then having the flipping downloaded CSV file that says, this is what I returned in 6 months. How about that? You want that. And of course, they'll be biting your arm off. They'll be biting your hand off. Right?
Just do the work. Go silent and do the work. There's too many people showcasing the fabrication of the work that's not actually happening, rather than going, do you know what? I'm going to go silent. I'm going to do the work. When the work's completed and I've got the proof of concept, I'm going to show the world the results.
Yeah.
That's when things happen. And also I can't stress it enough, beat the same drum, and step outside the comfort zone. Like, I'm doing street interviews again this weekend. The purpose and the benefits of those is it puts me in the limelight. I could have radio approach me. I could have TV approach me. I don't necessarily always want to do the street interviews, but I know that I'm going to step outside a comfort zone. My son's coming with me, and we're going to put ourselves in a position for a new opportunity that I don't know what it is yet. And what I will say is, don't do this whole new year, new me, because I think one thing we've all learned is, as entrepreneurs or creators, creatives, new things come into your ecosystem, right? And you just embrace new opportunity. You don't know what's around the corner, but an opportunity is there as long as you go and do the thing that is necessary, rather than going, I don't really want to do it. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
That's it.
That's great.
Just start.
People are in a world now where the opportunities are abundant. They don't know what they don't know. So, I think they know that environment is important. I think they know that there's people around them that aren't as supportive as they'd like. And maybe they label them as toxic, and maybe they label them as like unsupportive. But again, you don't want to give your power to that. Don't even worry about that. They shouldn't be supportive. Like, don't worry about it. You don't need that. It's not about that. Designing your life is about you stepping into who you want to become. So the way that I look at it is, we've got this short period of time that is our life, and the time period that you get to start making moves, to taking actions to get to your ideal life, is from about 15 years old, where you can start learning valuable skills and earning some money, right through to about 70, which after that, you're not really going to start hustling and starting, So in that time, which is about 55 years, there is a block of time where you're going to live your ideal life, hopefully, and a block of time where you're stepping into that ideal life or moving towards it, right? So I always see it that you want to get there as quick as possible, because the quicker you get there, the more it's skewed, the longer you live your ideal life, right? So how do you do that? You flipping take the action. Like, your priority is to pay as much money as you can on lessons of what you need to do, but not all of not everything. Again, you don't want to suffer from shelf development, where you're constantly buying courses and buying programs and sticking them on the shelf and never doing anything with it. You want to prioritize spending as much money as you possibly can to find someone who's done it. And that doesn't need to be a lot of money. It's whatever you've got. It's like, right, my priority is to live that life. Who's done it? What can I learn from them? How can I get an hour of their time? How can I get 2 hours of their time? Maybe I can afford 10 hours of their time. Maybe I can afford 12 months coaching with someone who's actually got what I want. That should be a priority. Because you are bypassing the amount of time that it takes to skip. You're just skipping ahead very quickly. You're downloading that person's brain into your personal life and applying all of the actions that they set out. If you wanted to be a golfer, it doesn't really make sense to think about what a good golfer does. It makes sense to go to Tiger Woods and go, what do you do before the tournament? What are you thinking when you swing the club? What if it's windy or rainy? How are you thinking? What are you thinking? How are you prepping for that? What do you do? What tee do you use? Whatever. And just mimic that, copy that. And if you keep doing that, every time you get to this point where you feel like giving up, 90% of the other people that are doing that in that exact situation will give up.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep going, and you are now way ahead, and your chances of significantly increased of the probability of you moving into that next stage of moving towards your ideal life. So every time you get to this point where you think, this is bloody hard, maybe it's wrong, maybe I'll give up, just keep going then. And that is when you think about it. Everyone in that situation at that moment in time is going to give up. Or 90% of them will give up, or 95% of them will give up at that point. And if you just keep going, you will move towards having that life.
Mate, this is why it's so important to operate and be able to operate as a lone operator. as a lone wolf. Before you can join a team, you have to be able to be the person that can get you out of bed, do the hard things, get into the gym, never become complacent, don't lose your bites. You have to be the one that cracks that whip on yourself. That getting yourself up and punishing yourself and having levels of discipline that keeps you on path. Because here's the thing for everyone, right? When you go out on your own, and I did a video dedicated for this because there wasn't any videos out there, it's understanding your time management. If you were to quit your job, for example, to pursue a business, you have this abundance of time where you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. So you look for kind of support and you kind of look for answers, but it's the management of time in everything. Like you're just like it, you manage your time well, and you value your time, and people have got to the point where they value your time. And that's the most important thing, right? And just on that, I always use this example. Everyone's runway is shorter or longer, right? Determined by what they've done over their life. But I always fall back on that film, Justin Timberlake, Time. If we all had that clock on our wrist, and ironically I have one on my wrist, right? I'm right twice a day. But if we had that timer ticking down, I would never believe that someone would be happy to go and do boring things, listen to gossip, watch the news, whilst they know that there's actually a ticking timer and going, sorry, I can't listen to your waffle. I can't listen to you just moan about life when I've got 6,000 hours left.
Yeah.
I need to get a move on in doing the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
We all have a ticking timer.
Yeah.
But it's because we can't see it. We don't act upon it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that I always think about it. As you said, worst case scenario, if I was on my deathbed and the man in white was looking at me thinking, right, I'm going to see you in a few minutes. If I could work backwards and change things, what would I do? And I think that's also a bottleneck for a lot of people. They don't want to think about worst case scenario. It's just kind of like living in the moment.
Yeah.
Problem is living in the moment, this whole YOLO, when people go, oh, live today like it's your last. If you go and spend all your money today, what are you doing tomorrow? Yeah. You're not going to get hit by a bus.
That's the irony. People who have that attitude end up, ironically, being the ones that are slaves to money for the rest of their life.
Literally.
And it's like, that's not what you want, clearly. But going back to what you said about being a lone wolf, really a lot of that just comes down to self responsibility, blaming only yourself for every situation you're in, and not needing pity, not needing praise. You just do your work, and you don't expect any. Oh, well, where's my flipping candles and cake? Where's my balloons? And when you've had a bad one, you don't expect someone to go, oh, and pity after you, because you just don't. You just doing the actions, and you don't want pity. You don't want praise. Because the moment you accept pity or praise is the moment you're trying to do it for someone else, and that's not going to get you where you want to go.
No one cares. I think everyone's life would become so pure and so much more fulfilled when you just take accountability. Even if you look back at your life, and a lot of people do, where they go, man, I made some bad decisions. Like, I haven't got any money in the bank. Like, horrifically, 84% of adults in the UK have less than £1,000 in savings. Mm-hmm. How is that possible? Less than £1,000 in savings. It blows my mind. And then there's about 12% that have less than £200 in savings. Mm-hmm. You've really then got to ask yourself, what situations and scenarios have you been through to be in that situation? But it's fine if you just go, is what it is. I own all of it. It's not my parents. It's not my wife who left me. It's not, I own it. I have been responsible for wherever I'm in life.
That's
now
really
I'm
empowering.
Changing. And then you feel like freaking Superman. And you're like, bring it on. I've got 10 years left in the game. Yeah. 10 years, I'm going to absolutely dominate. I know that there's opportunity everywhere. Let's have it.
Yeah. I think a wake-up call for how people spend their time is what's necessary, and understanding when you are having fair exchange, because if someone's dumping on you all the time, that is not serving you. It's all good to listen out and hear out a family member or a friend who's going through it, right? But as long as they'll be there for you. And whenever I see this happen, it's always the same people that get the dump on. It's always the same people that are shoulders to cry on, and it's never reciprocated. And all that is a big drain on your energy, your resources, your life, your relationships. It's just the same every time. And one of the most startling facts is this new statistic of people spending 3 hours a day doom scrolling on social media, right? Which Aaron said yesterday equates to 45 days per year.
Yeah.
Right?
Man.
So if you're scrolling on social media for 3 hours a day, 45 days per year, imagine that being on your deathbed. All you would want is 1 week. You'd be like, I'd just give anything to have 1 week. Do you think you might have a little bit of regret of spending 40, 100, 200, 500 days over a year, over the course of 5 years, say, just doom scrolling? What could you do in 5 years? You could literally transform your life in 5 years.
It's mind-blowing. I mean, what we can do in a month to then think about losing a month. And I just want to add on that. That's minimum 3 hours. There are people who are spending up to 7 hours a day. Like, that's minimum. So that could be 2 months over the year. And it is horrific. But the thing is, right, you just said it. You always need to go to the worst place possible. And unfortunately, as humans, and I love, it was one of my favourite books called I Know What to Do, So Why Don't I Do It by Dr. Nick Hall. And that whole entire book is talking about the psychology of humans, how lazy we are because we know that we should be smarter with money. We know that we should read to become wiser and more intelligent. We know we should look after our health. But for some reason, we are wired in a very weird way that we are influenced so easily by those who are around us that we end up being those people. Yeah. But we do know what to do. You don't need someone like you or I to tell them what to do. It's just a reminder, like, you know, when I bounce ideas off you, you're just reminding me what I already know, or technicalities of things I don't know. But we know what to do.
Yeah, you know what to do. There's strategies that will help you bypass certain things, so you can go as the crow flies. But the actual road, the pathway, everyone kind of knows, right? If you want to lose weight, you just eat less calories than you burn, and if you want to become financially independent, you spend less than you earn and you invest the surplus. Like, that is it. There's no other. Those are the paths that will definitely get you there. And then the strategy stuff is stuff that might bypass you going down a rabbit hole. So it's like, well, you know, don't run before doing weights, run after doing weights because you burn a bit more fat. You know, things like that will accelerate a little bit, but it still don't matter if you run before doing weights. You know, you will actually get the result eventually. So, man, I think this is, I hope this has been a bit of a wake-up call. I just want to finish off really by talking about some of the, you know, what to do. So if I was to talk about, like, if someone was listening to this, if you're listening to Always Free, you know, you're probably a switched on cat, and you probably know what you've got to do. And you might even be doing some of it already. And hopefully this is a bit more of a sense check and a bit of a, you know, attaboy. But what we're talking about here is looking at your circle, right? Being clear about what life you want, right? So being clear about what life you want, looking at your circle and asking yourself, are these people, one, living the life that I want? Have they got the results in any area of that life that I want? Because one of them might be really great in relationships, and, you know, you want to take something from that. But usually, most of the time, you want something greater, bigger, and you know what you're going after, and they haven't achieved what you want to achieve. And then ask yourself, are they supportive of that? Are they going to help you or hinder you from getting there? Once you know that, then it's time for a conversation with yourself to really consider, you know, who you need to just say, do you know what? I'm not going to reply to that message. I'm just going to give a bit of space to that person. If it's someone close, you might say, listen, I know, just give me a year. I'm going to go and do my thing. You know, you can laugh at me all you want after a year, but just please have that conversation. Like, be open with them, because it might be your wife or husband or someone, right? The other thing I would say is, if it is your wife or husband, I've seen a lot of people like leave their partners over this stuff. Like, I've been married for over 15 years. I've been with my partner for nearly 23 years. And we know there's challenges, and we know that we grow at different rates. And the success in a relationship comes from having a conversation with someone and understanding when they're challenging you for something you're not quite, you're a bit cocky with. And it's like, I see it all the time where people are like, oh, well, she wasn't supporting me or he wasn't supporting me, so they were negative, so I got rid of them. But in actual fact, they're probably like going, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? They're probably trying to just ground something that you've got an unrealistic expectation about. And when you see it that way, it's like, I know why they're saying that. I appreciate them for saying that. And then you have a proper conversation with them and say, yeah, I really appreciate that, but I'm going to try this, and this. And that's a much better way to move forward, and you'll get the support eventually in the end.
Right. But there's two people in a relationship as well. Like if you're going into business and you're in a relationship, both of you are going in.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not just one of you. I mean, that's the thing. And what I would say is, 4 evaluations, like step by step, what to do. 4 evaluations for me, very simple. Time evaluation, really look at where you're spending your time and be honest. Mm-hmm. Again, all these evaluations need honesty. Social evaluation, look at who you're spending time with and change if need changing. And then your self-evaluation, am I really cut out for this? Again, we'll want more money, but not everyone's got that tenacity, that go-get-it attitude. Yeah. Some people haven't. It's just the reality. And then you've got your financial evaluation, looking at your money and really working out where has it gone, where's it going now, what are we willing to live on, and are we able to make more sacrifices? And it's just honesty, accountability, and then starting now and getting perfect later.
Yeah.
And just stepping outside your comfort zone and being willing to go through the hardship. And my final point is just patience. We've totally lost patience in all areas of life, personally, physically, financially, anything else beyond that. No one has patience anymore. Yeah. People are scared to hear 5 years.
Yeah.
Totally. It puts them off.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that just to round off this episode with a message that's kind of underlying here is this is always free. It's about building a life that you want, being who you want to be. And whether you are tenacious or someone who's cut out for it or not, it doesn't really matter. The goal is to live a life that you're inspired by, right? You don't live for other people. You don't spend money on things because to keep up with other people. You have a clear idea about what life you want to live, and then all you have to do is focus on your bank balance. Mm-hmm. And if you focus on your bank balance, everything will align so that you can afford that life, that experience, those experiences, and it's going to cost different amounts for everyone, but you're buying freedom and experiences. You're not buying trinkets and things to show off to other people. If you're buying things for other people or doing things to please other people or just not living who you want to be, you will end up resentful. Mm. So the goal, no matter who you are, is just to make sure, whether you just want to stay in a job, just make sure you're buying the things that are important to you and being sensible enough of your money so that you can have that freedom. You know how much time you can buy into the future to do the things that you actually love, and don't waste that money on a flipping Ferrari or something that's could have been 10 years worth of freedom or 10 months worth of freedom or whatever it might be, right? So buy time, don't buy things. That would be my advice. And when you start focusing on that, you find that it's actually quite easy to build a life that you want, because you move into things that are aligned with that goal, and you don't necessarily need 100 grand more or 1 million or whatever. You just need an extra couple of 100, 500, 2,000 here, 1,000 there. And because it's all going towards the life that you're designing, it's easy. It's much easier.
And my final point on that is, you enter the world with nothing, you leave with nothing. No one will remember the car that you had. No. And that's the truth of it. But people will remember the impact, more so your children and people who are really close to you. Rather than spending X amount of money on a Rolex that you're pushing to buy and that you don't need right now, why not go on 4 holidays to make all those memories that your entire family is going to be happy with? And then just finally on that, right, is that most cosmetic problems do go away when you just look after your money. You go home, whether you're in a job or you end up building a business, you go home where you can breathe.
Yeah.
So, don't keep up with the Joneses.
Don't keep up with the Joneses, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Always Free Podcast. You can go and check out Aaron on all his social channels that will be around this video as well and around this episode. And until next time, take care. Have a great rest of your day and we'll catch you then.